Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone has had a fantastic weekend, and I hope you survived last week. And if you did, pat yourself on the back. Congratulations, because it was indeed a pretty busy, despite the short week, with Monday being the day off. Yeah, I mean, it was just news driven, headlines, data, earnings, just a lot of stuff going on all week last week. So if you survived that, congratulations. But without further ado, let's get into it and jump into the economic data that we had last week. We had Chairman Powell speaking on Sunday. He didn't comment on anything important as far as the economic or monetary policy. No point in really diving into that. And then on Tuesday, we had our consumer confidence. That came in at 98 versus 87. A big jump in the consumer confidence readings, the biggest jump that we've had in quite some time. And in fact, Trump touted this in one of his press conferences about this reading. So a pretty significant jump there. Moving forward, we had our FOMC minutes, which, yeah, you know, it was pretty much a nothing burger for the most part. So just got a little bit more insights as to where things are sitting. But like I said, it was a pretty much a non-mover. We also had our unemployment claims, which we did see a little bit of an uptick, 240,000 versus 229,000. We also had our pending home sales, which came in at minus 6.3%. That's a pretty drastic fall off on the pending home sales. In fact, we also got some data from Redfin that showed that there are a lot more sellers than buyers in the market right now. So yeah, that explains a lot. And then we got our revised University of Michigan consumer sentiment, which came in at 52.2. Now, most of these readings, yeah, we got a pop or two off of it, but they weren't really super impactful. The main things that came about were definitely the headlines, such as tariffs. We had the judges, circuit district the circuit district judges. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. Judges that blocked Trump's tariffs, saying that it's not justifiable and all that. So when we got that news, we had a big push in the market on Tuesday, but we didn't really get any follow through on the prior days. In fact, we got Trump did get a nice little win there with the whole tariffs battle, and there was a stay put in place. And they have a deadline sometime, I believe it's this week or next week, I'll double check that, to make their arguments, to present their written arguments as to why the tariff should stay and why the presidency has that power, et cetera, or doesn't. So yeah, that was the main headlines, though, a lot of the back and forth between the tariff battles. And also, we had our NVIDIA earnings, which NVIDIA did have a beat. Their data center revenue continues to be impressive. Came in at $39.1 billion. But the main thing is CEO Jensen was very, very critical about the current U.S. approach to China. In fact, NVIDIA is taking a pretty significant hit on their H20 products, and it's going to cost about $10 billion in Q2 revenues. And that pretty much, the whole H20 export ban pretty much ended their Hopper business in China. In fact, Jensen said they currently do not have any product right now going to China. And Jensen, like I said, Jensen was very, very critical of the current U.S. Stance on chips and China. In fact, he was saying China is going to continue to move forward with or without us. China's either going to be running on American products or they're going to be running on their own products. So America has an opportunity to make a really good market move within China and with the AI chips. And he made the point that, you know, the idea that China was kind of shaky with their own chips, it was kind of like a wrong theory, and it's very clearly wrong, especially with the whole DeepSeek situation. So there's no point in shielding them from this. But as it says, yeah, I mean, NVIDIA, they had a good earnings report. Nonetheless, there are some woes there. It wasn't the most joyous earnings call that we've had, especially from Jensen. The most of the market move that came from the NVIDIA earnings came from their CFO, who was a lot more upbeat during the earnings call, and then Jensen came on and was just like hounding the U.S. government stance on the whole chip situation. So that's going to be continue to be something that we need to monitor going through. Of course, headlines coming in and out, and we just need to digest everything that does come out and make sure what is coming out is not just noise. And a lot of the news right now, there is a lot of noise out there. So it's important to decide for yourself, is it noise or if it's something that is impactful. Of course, the market will tell us if it's impactful or not. But yeah, moving on ahead to next week's data, we have a lot of jobs data. We got ISM services, we got unemployment claims, non-farm payrolls, the unemployment rate. Fed Chairman Powell speaks on Monday at 1 o'clock, so we're going to be all eyes and ears on that, and that will be live streamed in the Discord. But yeah, a lot of it's going to come down to this jobs data this week. We want to continue to see robust jobs growth that tells the Fed, you know, hey, things are still looking okay. We can keep rates where they are, which as it sits, most likely we're not getting a rate cut in June or July. The market's still hanging on to the idea that we're only going to get two, maybe even just one rate cut this year. So, but as long as something doesn't break, if something is broken, the Fed will let us know. They'll cut rates, and then that opens up a whole slew of a whole new can of worms, so to speak, as far as that front goes. But yeah, it's all about the jobs data. Chairman Powell speaking on Monday. But yeah, all in all, that's about it as far as the economic data. We don't have too many earnings reports. There are some interesting ones that we're going to keep an eye on, but let's just go ahead and dive into the charts. Let's start out with the SPY. We're just kind of stuck in this zone between, really, we can round up to about 600 and 575. If we break above 600 on the SPY, that definitely opens up the door to all-time highs at about 613 and a quarter. You can see that we're pretty much in this Darvas box here. And until we get range expansion, we're just kind of stuck in here. We're just kind of digesting, moseying along, despite the headlines, good news or bad news. Nothing has really broken down. Nothing has really broken to the upside. Momentum is just kind of, it is what it is. So yeah, 598 to 600, that's the level we need to break for continued upside on the SPY, or a break below 576, 575 for downside move on the SPY. Moving on to the NASDAQ, you're going to see it's kind of pretty much the same picture here. We had that nice little move off of NVIDIA earnings and that judgment from the U.S. Court of International Trade rules against President Trump. We had that nice little push. It looked like we were going to have ourselves a nice little breakout, but guess what? Patience paid. That day we started to fall back down into the prior range, and on Friday we couldn't get back above it. So that's the key here. 522.50, we got to get back above and hold above 522.50 for us to make an attempt at all-time highs up at about the 541 mark. But as it sits, yeah, we're back in the prior range. No harm, no foul. Moving on to the Dow, kind of the same thing here. The Dow's pretty stable despite UNH woes. needs to get above 424.50 to get a move towards 428. Above 428, then we could talk about a bigger move up towards about the 440 mark. Again, same thing here. If we start to break down on the downside below 414, that could open the door for lower prices. But as it sits, excuse me, I had to sneeze. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hopefully I got that muted. But as it sits right now, we're just kind of stuck in this zone between 424.50 and 414. Yeah, not too bad. IWM needs to get above 210. 210, if we zoom out here, let me put this on a weekly chart just so you can see it. We talked about this in last week's video. 210 is a very critical spot for the IWM. We really need to get that move above to even consider higher prices as far as the small caps go. But you got a nice little interesting setup here. It's just a matter of, is it going to go or is it not going to go? I mean, that's pretty much the key thing here. Is it going to go or is it not going to go? Let's move on to some of these sectors. Let's check out gold. Gold's been pretty stable these past few days. Is it a bull flag or are we just channeling here? If we get that push above about 308, sure, then we're opening the door for moves to back into all-time highs for gold. Bitcoin's pretty interesting. We had that push to all-time highs, about 112,000, and then we've kind of fallen back below the prior all-time high. Is this a failed breakout? I would like to see more candles here to suggest otherwise. This could be a formation of a bull flag. But as it sits right now, we haven't really broken back down. Now, if we start to break back below 100,000, then I'm a little bit more concerned about this Bitcoin false breakout. But as it sits, it's made a new higher high. It continues to be very impressive. Your Bitcoin names are kind of stagnant at this point. I don't really care for MSTR here. It's trying to form a base here, so that could be interesting. But if you start to lose 359, I mean, there's not really much support. I mean, we had this nice run up, and we didn't really base out anywhere. So if this thing wants to dump, it can probably dump pretty hard, and from there try to build something out. But I'm not a big fan here. Coinbase, kind of the same situation. He had that nice move over 264.50, but now it really needs to get above about 278.80 for a push up to the 300 mark. So that's our Bitcoin moves here. As far as the sectors goes, industrials continue to look pretty impressive, still hanging out near all-time highs at 142.86. The all-time high is at 144.50. Keeping an eye on the industrial sector. I'm also keeping a good look here at the XLK to go along with the QQQ. Needs to get above 235.78. I would like to see semiconductors catch a bid. We're kind of in this range here between 250 and 234. Like I said, we had the NVIDIA earnings, which was pretty good, but there are some troubling signs. Not troubling, but some cautionary signs from that earnings report with the H20, the Hopper series, and guidance was a little bit and we'll see what about the volatility in the global geopolitical and regulatory environments. But we do have earnings from Broadcom coming out, and Broadcom had a nice push above 238, got a high of about 245. 251 is our all-time high that we need to pay attention to. We'll see if it can get above that. Like I said, earnings are on Thursday, so be on the lookout for that. That's one of the key earnings that I am looking out for this week. And finally, as far as sectors go, the consumer discretionary, same situation here. It's in that nice little box between 218 and 210. Break above 218 could give us some nice higher prices. Of course, the big player here, Amazon and Tesla. Now, Tesla, it had this nice day on Tuesday, which congrats if you caught that move. But look, we didn't get any follow through, and I'm not going to lie to you. Like, this move on Tuesday, it was a good move. The feeds were blowing up. Discord was pretty excited about it. Even Twitter was going absolute bonkers. It was a great one-day move. But when you zoom out and take a look at this picture, I mean, look what happened. We came right up to resistance and we failed. And we're coming back in. Now we're stuck back in the prior range. You could even argue that we're going to come all the way back down. I would not be surprised by that. So I'm not in love with Tesla to the upside unless we can hold above 362. If we can hold above 362, yeah, there's a really good argument that we can make a push towards 400. But as it sits right now, look, we're back in the range. We could even come all the way back down. You can continue to day trade this, have tight stops. Tesla likes to do its own Tesla-y things. That's what we always talk about in the chat rooms. Tesla does Tesla-y things. So just be mindful of that if you do decide to day trade Tesla. But as far as a swing perspective, it just did not hold above the key level that I was hoping for. So keep a good eye on Tesla this week. See if it can hold above 362 or if it just falls back to the downside. Moving on, though, Amazon's pretty quiet, and I'm not too much of a fan here with Amazon. But let's kind of jump into some of these individual names, and I want to start with the industrial sector. Most importantly, GE. You had this nice little bull flag that we talked about in last week's video. We got continuation towards 250. It looks pretty good. GE Vernova looks pretty good. Also, you're holding above the 447 all-time high breakout. Caterpillar has that box look to it. Needs above 357 to push towards 370. That will give you a nice little 13-point move or so. Moving on, you got Boeing. Boeing had a really fantastic move on Thursday, inside day on Friday. Let's see if we can break above that high a day from Friday and get ourselves a nice little push towards 215 on Boeing. That looks pretty good to me. ADP all-time highs holding above 322.84. As long as it holds above 322.84, you got room to 330 in my opinion. And then you got Waste Management. This was also on our watch last week. Had that nice little breakout, held it, had that gap down, but guess what? It said, nope, we want back up. And then on Friday, you had follow through on higher volume. And this looks pretty good to me to confirm that all-time high. You got that ascending triangle. Looks great. Moving on to the XLK, Microsoft is the clear winner here. You do got Netflix, which is part of the communication sector, but Netflix continues to hold out at all-time highs. Big breadwinner this year alone. So continue to look for relative strength in Netflix. But as far as the XLK goes, Microsoft looks pretty good still. Continues to hold above 457. Room to 468. Above 468, you get lifetime highs on Microsoft. Not too bad for a market that is playing everything other than big tech. We've seen a lot of big moves on names that are not big tech. For instance, Palantir. Look at this move on Friday on Palantir. We were kind of going back and forth with this 125 mark. We came back to 119, bounced off of that, and just kind of flirted around with 125. 125 was a very big resistance level throughout the week, and then Friday, man, we just had a huge move to the upside. I'm looking for continuation up to like the 140s even on Palantir, so keep an eye on Palantir. Look at that volume too on that. We talked about Broadcom, who has earnings this week. That'll be another key thing for Broadcom. Moving on to the XLY, we talked about Tesla, but look at Booking.com, yeah, all-time high breakout into the 5,500 range. We also have Ulta, who reported pretty strong earnings, gap up, a little bit of a nasty shear candle. So let's see if it can hold this earnings play, but all in all, nice little breakout. Keep an eye on that. You also have names like Walmart. Walmart looking to break above 100. Above 100, we could get 103.60s. And then you have eBay and Dash. These all look pretty solid here. Dash needs over 213.38. And then let's go into some odds and ends here. CrowdStrike. Earnings on Tuesday. Man, this is setting up pretty good. It had the breakout move over 455, has held it twice now. You see that we had the test on Thursday, and then we held it on Friday. Now can we get over 474 and push towards 490, maybe even to 500 magnet? You also have Meli Mercado Libre, continues to look impressive here. Needs to hold 2,500 and break out of 2625 on Meli. CME, part of the financial sector, had that breakout on Friday. Look for continuation there. Hopefully it's not a failed breakout. CME needs a move over 261.64. Hood needs over 67 to push towards 70. Hood looks a lot better than Bull. I am not buying Bull. It looks like a bunch of Bull. Hood is definitely the breadwinner here when it comes to that industry. And then you got Monster Energy. Pretty good stuff here on Monster. Needs over about 65 to push towards 67. Kind of a slow mover, but nonetheless, breaking out into new highs. You can see that we had broke out above a lot of resistance here at around the 61 to 60 range, and finally we're getting that big move. But all right, that's all the charts I have for you today. Next week, like I said, it's all about the jobs data. It's all about Powell on Monday. Pay attention to the headlines. Keep an eye on, steel names like Nucor and U.S. Steel. Trump is looking to, he did make a statement on Friday saying that he's going to raise tariffs on steel products up to 50% to protect American steel industries. And I believe that he's going to be signing that either on Wednesday or Thursday. I believe it's Wednesday. So definitely pay attention to steel names and any kind of, we'll have to keep our ears and eyes peeled for any Trump conference, which is a day-to-day thing. Just kind of check his calendar and see what's going on. But all right, that's going to be it for me, guys. Remember, SPY needs over 598, 600 to reach all-time highs. Qs, same thing, 522.50 is our key spot here to push towards new highs at 540. But yeah, there's a lot of good setups out there. When we even look at some of these market internal readings, 70% of stocks within the NYSE, NASDAQ, and AMEX are above their 50 simple moving average, and about 46% are above their daily 200. So market breadth continues to expand, and even though it's not your magnificent seven, which hasn't been so magnificent lately. Key point: Apple's not doing anything, Amazon's not doing anything. The main ones that are really doing something is Netflix and Microsoft. Outside of that, I mean, these guys aren't doing too much. It's been about everybody else out there, other than big tech, like Palantir, names like Hood. All these quiet kind of movers have been pedal to the metal, solid stocks lately, and that's what's been moving. That's what's been driving us. But yeah, continue to draw your levels, continue to play your setups, keep your head on a swivel, especially with the headlines. Try your best to cut out the noise, which I'm doing my best to keep you aware of what's going on and what is the key market drivers right now. But all right, have a good week. I will see you in the chats. Y'all have a good one, and happy trading. Bye, guys.